Tesla. It remains one of the most talked about companies on Wall Street. And here now to discuss what lies ahead for the EV giant is Dan Ives. He's Managing Director and Senior Equity Research Analyst at Wedbush. Dan, pleasure to see you.
Great to be here.
Okay, so Tesla, some bumps in the road perhaps with the stock, but what do you think this kind of year is going to be for the EV giant?
And look, the haters are going to continue to hate. But ultimately, it's really the next phase of the Tesla growth story. I mean, the price war, that Game of Thrones in China, I believe 95% of that's done. Margins start to stabilize. And if you look, this was a record China quarter. So the irony is that coming into this year, the bears thought this was the year the Tesla story was going to ultimately break. Instead, actually got stronger. And I believe 2024 is going to be a very strong year for Tesla as more and more they're doubling down on EVs.
Yeah, and I want to unpack a little bit on the margin side and the China strategy a little bit more. So when it comes to margins, when exactly do you see that leveling off and stabilizing?
Look, I think it's an important conference call from Musk because really trying to put some line in the sand from a margin perspective. I think 2024 margins plateau and then ultimately start to uptick. That's the key of the story. Key to what I view as a re-rating on the stock and ultimately EPS moving higher. Tesla's had I view it as almost a poker move for the ages by Musk. Cutting prices, volumes, that was the name of the game for 2023. And that's why the bears are still looking at their stitches and getting hurt from 2023, which is a tough year. 2024, it's on the offensive. Cybertruck, I think battery technology is going to have massive improvement. And really, the gold at the end of the rainbow, what everyone's waiting for is FSD and AI. And I really view Tesla arguably as one of the best AI plays, especially on the FSD front.
So one more question about margins. When you're looking at average selling prices in the 60,000 range, what about the lower price range vehicles, whatever that comes out? How is Tesla going to be able to fare on the margins with those?
By Thanksgiving, we believe they announced a sub $30,000 vehicle that's produced out of Mexico as well as in Austin. And that's important to get to the masses. But also, they will be profitable on a car like that over the next 12, 18 months once that ramps, because they have something that gives them the power. The margins, the software, the story they have gives them the opportunity to really crush the competition. I think that at both sides they're doing it. Cybertruck and then a sub $30,000 vehicle, that's sort of the 1-2 punch where Musk continues to play chess while others play checkers.
So you talked a little bit about China. What are you seeing play out in terms of Tesla's China strategy right now?
Look, I think it's a fictional Netflix story about the China demise because they just had a record quarter. Now, a BYD, massive success that we've seen from them, but it's a two-horse race. You look, this is a green tidal wave. It's the biggest transformation to the auto industry since 1950s. Clearly, modest demands ticked off, and we've seen that across the industry. But right now, people want a Tesla, not necessarily an EV. And for Tesla, that's a good position for Musk to be in, especially as I believe they just solidify their position.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. It seems like in general, demand softening for EVs. Do you think Tesla is immune to that? Do they stand apart from what we're seeing in the industry in general?
Well, I think it's the gold standard. And they continue to be the top of that mountain in terms of what Musk has built, the Tesla brand. I mean, if you look Apple and others, you can really name on one hand the amount that have built that type of brand. But Musk is years ahead of competition. From an efficiency, from a scale, I think India comes on board this year. And I think this is something we're going to look in the next few years. And this is more of an inflection point year in terms of the rest of the story. Supercharger, FSD, battery technology.
Right. And I think when it comes to Tesla, is it a car company? Is it a tech company? How does that play into the valuation? And also the growth drivers as we look out. So what are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think many that have viewed Tesla from the beginning, we've been fighting with the bears for a decade. Remember, a lot of the smartest people I know are Tesla bears. But in Tesla, the bulls are really the ones that make money. And I think if you look at how it's all played out, they view it as an auto company. We view it as a disruptive technology company. That's like saying Tom Brady's just a football player and LeBron's just a basketball player and Tiger's just a golfer. The point is that it's special what they've built, and that's why the multiple is afforded that from a Wall Street perspective.
So what do you think is the biggest risk to the company right now?
Look, I would say, as much as people say Musk is look, I'd say Musk is the biggest asset. And despite all the negative headlines that we've seen, investors understand with Musk, this is not an individual that's going to be reading books on a Saturday night. So the biggest risk continues to be China, because China is the hearts and lungs of the Tesla growth story, just like Apple. So any sort of ratcheting up a geopolitical US-China cold tech war, that's probably what I view as the biggest risk, especially with that price war that's definitely started to stabilize.
Yeah. And in 2020, 2021, part of that, Tesla, a huge, huge, huge winner. We haven't seen the kind of performance lately from the stock. So do you view Tesla, the company, a little bit differently than Tesla, the stock? Or how should investors be thinking about
Yeah, I
that?
think at the end of this year, it's $1 trillion market cap. And that's why I think if you go back to a year ago, the haters were thinking Tesla goes under $100. Instead, it's a stock that basically doubled. And as it all plays out, betting against Musk and Tesla, it's been like betting against Tom Brady in Super Bowls.
Great. Well, Dan, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thanks
giving
for
us your
being here.
take today.
Thanks.